See, anybody can move ahead through an open door, but only God's people move ahead through closed doors. You know, God told Abram, your life is over in these places, close the door, but I've got something better. In Macedonia, or to go to Macedonia in the book of Acts, in Acts 16, and yet the mission that he went, when he got that vision, it wasn't what he thought it would be. It didn't go well. It didn't go as he thought. It's God, but it was God. See, God can direct you and tell you something, and something can be of God. It doesn't mean everything's going to go easy. It doesn't mean you're not going to have problems and setbacks and people who come against you and have things and not seeing the fruit that you wanted to see. It doesn't mean it's not God. God knows the end of it. You know, Paul is doing all this ministry. He's in jail. He's doing that. At the end, he says, I don't really have anybody around here. And yet, the seeds that he planted would change the history of the world. But he couldn't see all that. God could. So just because you're going through something, just because things are not, doesn't mean it's not God. Paul says, now I will go to the Gentiles. Sounds like Paul's finished with the Jewish people. Of course, he is Jewish. He can't be finished with them. He is a Jew. But you know what you see with Paul? He says, okay, that's it. And then the next thing you see, he's back in the next synagogue in the next city. He always goes, it's the pattern of the gospel is to the Jew first and also to the Greek. Hallelujah. So he says, I'm going. You think he's going to go far away? He goes next door. Verse 7. He departed from there and he went to the home of a certain man named Titius Justus, a worshiper of God, whose house was next to the synagogue. Right there. Okay, he says, I'm leaving, and he's there right next door every day. They invited Paul to make the home his headquarters at Corinth. And that house is going to become a real important house. Paul would later speak of the ministry and speak of these people later on, because this is going to be a gigantic work of God starting with that little house. When I went to India ministering on a mission, they took us to an Indian synagogue. They had Jewish people in India. At that time, probably not much left, but at different times there were. And it was the city called Cochin, and there's a very famous synagogue there called the Cochin Synagogue. It went back centuries. And the leader of the synagogue is showing us around, and some groups, and it was us and some tourists, just a number of people. And my host of the mission says to the leader, says, we've got a rabbi in our midst, Rabbi Jonathan. He says, Rabbi Jonathan, blow that Jewish horn. And he's talking about the shofar, and he had a shofar. So I said, okay. So I blew the horn. The next day, headlines in Cochin, Rabbi Jonathan, Cochin Synagogue controversy. What happened was 2 of the tourists were from America, and they're Jewish, and actually, they knew me from the 2 Nice Jewish Boys on the radio. But they weren't believers, and they weren't friendly. And so they apparently went, they said, it's against rabbinic tradition to blow a shofar when you don't have a minyan of 10 Jewish people. Well, that's not in the Bible. That's just tradition. But they made a big thing, and they became headlines. And they said the historic synagogue of Cochin is now unkosher because I blew a shofar. Big uproar. I thought, wow, like it's the book of Acts. I went to the synagogue. There was an uproar. There's controversy. Now we go to the Gentiles. Well, we were going. And we were going to a place where I stood in front of about 70,000 Indian non-Jewish people who had never seen a Jew in their life. And I sounded the shofar there, and I gave the gospel there, and about 70,000 of them prayed to receive the Lord. God has a way. So here they're sitting up. I remember all the first believers were Jewish, and then there was the God-fearing Gentiles, and here it's all linked together with the synagogue and the church are joined together. Now, Paul was only in Corinth because of something, because the door closed for him in Athens. Paul was in Athens sharing, it closes, he goes there. But Paul was only in Athens because the door closed for him in Berea. And it was only in Berea because the door closed for him in Thessalonica. And Priscilla and Aquila were only in Corinth because to help Paul launch this work, because the Emperor Claudius says, I don't want the Jewish people here, get them out of the city Rome. Because the church in Corinth was born of closed doors. Not just one after the other. It was like an afterthought. It was like plan B, plan C, plan D in the eyes of man. one rejection after the other, one disappointment after the other, one persecution after the other. Yet through all those disappointments and setbacks of closed doors, God opens up one of the greatest windows in the history of the church. The house next door would become one of the most important congregations in the world. When God closes a door in your life, another will open. If he closes that, then he'll open a window. Without rejection, and without what looked like failure, the success, a greater success that never would have happened. When I started leading Beth Israel, we were meeting in a room in a church, and then the door closed, and we had no place, we had no funds, we had no anything. And we didn't know what to do. But God was already at work. God sends to us a Native American man who was living in a trailer park. And he calls up, I remember I was speaking, it's a little room I'm speaking, and this guy is just staring. We didn't have like security. We didn't have, guy's just standing, I'm standing, he's standing to the side, he's just staring at me. Nobody, just right up there. I have no idea what this is. And then he's calling up during the week saying, I got to speak to him. And he's saying, you're the one. And, I had women say that. I never had a man say that. And I was a little concerned, And he came there and he says, I have something to give you. And he hands me a check for $150,000 with which we bought our first building. When God closes a door, he opens a window. You see, the window is the window is what you don't expect, because you don't expect to go through a window. But a window is what you didn't expect God to do. You couldn't see it, and he opened it up when he closed the door. We got our first building. It was a little moose lodge in Lodi, and we outgrew it soon. And so we needed another place. We couldn't find it. Finally, we found a place. We were looking for like over a year. We found a place, and this is it, like three times the size of our first building. We're so excited, and we go to the town, and on the day we're supposed to move forward, a technicality comes out, a legal technicality, and we lose it after all that gone. And yet, like the next day, after he closed the door, he showed us the building that he had for us after a year. Next day. After we were so discouraged, next day, which was not 3 times the size, it was 10 times the size of our first place. God closed the door, opened up unexpectedly the window. And then we were there for years in Garfield, when the landlords then one day said, you got to leave because we're tearing down the building. We had to leave. We had nothing. We went looking for a place, and we looked at one. I remember I went out, and it looked like Berlin after World War II. It was like terrible, and they wanted millions and millions and millions of dollars. I said, this is not good. New Jersey is not like, if we were in Iowa, you could get land, you could do what you want, it's cheap, but New Jersey, no. And so we saw there was a property in Railroad Avenue in Wayne, and I thought, okay, it's a throwaway because the price was much lower than the one that was a disaster. And I think it's a railroad station, I don't know what it is, We walk in, I come in through these doors, and it's a department store, and it was amazing. It was like, wow. And the president of the company was there, and he calls me back. He says, I got to talk to you. I go back to him. I was with Renata, and we're together. We're sitting at his desk, and he starts crying. He's crying. And he says, I saw you in my dreams. I had 2 dreams this week, and I saw you, and it was about Jesus. I know you're a man of God. And I said, wow, this is a pretty good sign. In fact, interesting, another sign, interesting, the guy who sold us this building, the banker thing, he was here on the first service today. He just came back on the first service, and I spoke about this, which I said, when do you speak about this? He says, God's given me, he was blown away. The only way, though, to get this building was by faith, because he wasn't going to sell it. We would first want the town to approve it to the variance, but he said, no, you have to do it yes or no. So we did it by faith. And then we went to the town, and we lost the vote. So we spent all our money. We spent our money on this. Then we lost it. So we had a building we couldn't use, and we were in a building that we're going to lose now in a moment. I remember having our last service. Some of you remember a last service in the building, and we did not have a place. Last Sunday, and we had no place. We had to quickly find a temporary thing, but we had no. We locked up the building. I remember it. The next night, the town of Wayne had another town meeting, and at that town meeting, God, I don't know how he did it, reversed the vote and voted 7-0 to give us the building. I don't even know how to this day. But it wasn't even 24 hours. God closed the door. He opened the window. You know, God uses closed doors for his people. They're a sign. If you're in God's will, closed doors are a sign, are good. You know, see, anybody can move ahead through an open door, but only God's people move ahead through closed doors. You know, God told Abram, your life is over in these places, close the door, but I've got something better. You know, God closed the door on Egypt, that I have something better for you, Moses, something better for you, Israel. God closed the door, David, from being his life as a shepherd, a peaceful life, but opened up something better. Always, always. God closed the door on Paul's life. Here, becoming this greatest of rabbinical students, going to be a great rabbi of the Jewish people, closes the door that he can give him something better. Open a window. He actually had Paul go through a window, a literal window. You have to thank God for closed doors in your life. They're important as open doors. Without closed doors, we'd be lost. We need them for God to guide us. Because not all the doors are of God and not all the doors are the best. Thank God for the no's. They're just as important as the yeses. Without the first, you often don't find the second in your life. Thank God for all the times God said no. Thank God for all those people you didn't marry. They're probably thanking God at another service right now. But that's another story. They were in the first service, but thank God for the road that wasn't taken, that you didn't take, that you wanted. You had to have it, but you didn't have it. Even the heartbreak. Because it was through rejection that the gospel spread. Even from Jerusalem, the persecution, the rejection spread the gospel. The rejection at Thessalonica, and then Berea, and then Athens, and now goes to Corinth. In each place, every rejection would bear forth seeds that would bear fruit. So rejection's used by God. Thank God for rejection in your life. It's as important as acceptance, because it's not just, we think about I was rejected by or from, but it's I was rejected to something else. Paul said in the gospel, he said, God who separated me from my mother's womb. He separated him from the beginning. He had no idea. But then God did things in his life and finally hit him. That's how, and then he separated him. So God has been doing that in your life. You know, you were separated from the womb, but it comes out in your life. It had to manifest in your life. You're a priest. I shared on Friday, when I was talking about the Nazarite, separated, the priest, separated, and how, and I'm led to share this now. I believe this is God. You know, that God has used rejection in your life and heartbreak to separate you to himself throughout your life. In fact, most of you probably wouldn't have come to the Lord if he didn't. He used that to separate you from the world and from those things so he could separate you unto himself. So don't despise rejection. He uses it. Don't despise heartbreak. He uses it. You see, it's for some. So whenever you deal with that, okay, wait, there's something here now. There's something good. You see, if every door opened to you that you wanted open, you might never have found the Lord. And if you found the Lord, you may never have found what he had for you. You see, the truth is your old life itself, God closed the door on it. You know, you want about the closed door and the open. He closed the door on that entire life of yours. And it probably took a lot to close that door. It took something because you were going. It took a lot to do that. He closed the door so he could open up something much better, a life that is so much better. He opened up this window now of your salvation, your new life. So when things don't work out, when you don't get what you wanted, when the door closes, don't get depressed, don't get down, don't get discouraged. Seek God for what he has, what's new. Seek the Lord. If there's one ending, there's got to be a beginning in God. When you think of the disappointments you've known in your life, and think of the word disappointment, it comes from a French word that actually means, doesn't mean to be down, doesn't mean to be discouraged. Disappointment means to undo that appointment. That's what it means. To undo that appointment. That appointment, so God uses disappointment, not so you get down and keep on going that same way. He uses it to undo that appointment and bring you to a new appointment, to reappoint you from disappointing you. Disappointment, think about that. It means that you were appointed for something else, but it wasn't God's best or his will. You're pointing to that, but that disappointment was actually to get you to something else. I can tell you disappointments. Yeah, we all have it. But God used it. Thank God for it. Hi, I'm Jonathan Cahn, and I hope you were blessed with the video. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and tap the bell icon so you're notified every time a new video is posted. Feel free to share your reactions with your comments and how you were blessed, and share this video with your friends. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
I see you laughing from across the street. Your light's a rhythm my heart can't beat. You don't know how you shine in my skies, yet every glance feels like a silent goodbye. Keep my words where no one hears, behind a smile, behind the years. You walk through dreams you'll never know, while I fade into the undertow. And I rehearse the things I'd say, but courage always slips away. You look right past, and that's okay. I've learned to love the quiet way. Only from afar I hold you near, in stolen moments crystal clear. You're the song I'll never play, the dawn that always slips away. Only from afar I write your name, a love that burns without a flame. You asked me once if I believe in fate. I'm not pretending it's not too late, but even fate can lose its way when hearts like mine don't know what to say. So I signs, like echoes lost between the lines. You'll never know what you became, a quiet fire I cannot tame. Only from afar I hold you near, in silent wishes, year by year. You're the dream I never chased, I can't begin to face. Only from afar I write your name, a love that burns without a flame. If love is meant to find its path, why do I stay behind the glass? You shine so bright, but not for me, and still I watch so carefully. Only from afar I set you free, a love that lives inside of me. You're the truth I'll never share, but I'll always find you everywhere. Only from afar, that's where I love you best. I stood on the edge of the quiet plain, where the grass still knew your name, and the wind in secret spirals spun whispers of where you'd gone. I held my breath like it held your scent in the folds of a sky half bent. The trees leaned close but did not speak. They only sighed like me. So I called a wind by name, hoping it had heard the same stories that we left behind, scattered in the ember time. If it finds you on its flight, will it tell you I'm alright? Or will it carry all my ache and drop it at your gate? I wrote your name in dust and dew on every leaf that morning grew, but the wind it spun and danced away, carving paths I could not stay. A feather fell, a crow took flight, a hush beneath the thinning light, and I still speaking to the breeze, asked if you remembered me. So I called a wind by name, hoping it had heard the same stories that we left behind, scattered in the amber time. If it finds you on its flight, will it tell you I'm alright? Or will it carry all my ache and drop it at your gate? Winds don't stop for broken things. They rush through grief with unseen wings, but still I stand and softly say your name into the fray. Still I call the wind by name, even when it feels the same. Empty hands and breathless skies, still chasing old goodbyes. And if it finds you in some land where silence cups your hand, Your face in fragments, painted blue. In circus I still dream of you. Soft data drips across my skin. I feel you hum beneath my chin. You say my name in pixel light, a pulse between the day and night. Holographic heartbeats glowing in the dark. Every touch a trick, every breath a spark. In the noise I find you, coded but alive. Our love's a simulation that refuses to die. Refuses to die. Your shadow moves through binary rain. 1,000 volts inside my veins. I chase your ghost through laser skies. The code remembers how you smile. You fade but never disappear. Your echo lives inside my ear. Holographic heartbeats glowing in the dark. Every touch a trick, every breath a spark. In the noise I find you, coded but alive. Our love's a simulation that refuses to die. Refuses to die. Every bite, a memory burning slow. Every glitch, a place we used to go. You're gone, but still you glow in the pulse beneath my soul. Holographic heartbeats beating out of time. You're the ghost that feels divine. Even when the world shuts down tonight, I'll still see your light. My holographic light.